What's up, everybody? Welcome back. I'm starting the video today. So we're going to have a fun, just free-flowing conversation about being cheap. I think this relates to everybody, whether you're an entrepreneur, a trader, just when to be cheap, what does it even mean to be cheap, and yeah, who's more cheap between the two of us?
COVID. Sorry.
This was something that we were talking about last weekend. So
and I was like, oh, this is a good video concept.
Yeah, we were just getting into it, so we thought we would talk in front of the camera and share it with you guys.
Because I think you guys will find some value. So if you enjoy the conversation, make sure you give us a thumbs up and subscribe. So for me, being cheap, I think always goes back to my parents, right? Because I think for all of us, like the people who raise us, show us like where to spend money and what the definition of money means. And now actually, as I'm thinking about it, you got the wheels turning, Rye. There's that video of Grant Cardone. Like he used to say all the time, he was like, he would have these sentences. Money is the root of all
evil.
Right. Rich people are naturally
greedy.
Right. See, like those innate answers that you have, he would go around and he would ask people that question. And he's like, look at the way that you're initially, as a kid, taught to look at money. So in the same way, we should think about like how we're initially conditioned to think about being cheap and where to be cheap. And I think a lot of us are conditioned poorly because
those aren't my natural conditioned responses. I just know that that's what you wanted me to say.
She wanted
this is where the conversation gets interesting.
She wanted that on the record. Right. So, but you get what I'm saying,
yeah.
Right? Like the conditioning of what being cheap is and like what money does for you, that conditioning comes from your parents and the people that you're raised. Don't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And whether it's like direct conditioning, like they're teaching you about it, or just conditioning through observation, because most people don't like to talk about money. It's this weird taboo thing.
Right. But it's something that we all need to survive. So it's like, why would you avoid the conversation?
Well,
and it's weird because like you're taught that you have to work hard to make a lot of money, but I think we're seeing now more than ever that you don't necessarily have to work the hardest in like a physical hard sense of the word, which a lot of people are defining it as.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that anymore. I mean, look at some of these kids on YouTube. I was watching a video of these guys, like, have you heard of the Sway House? Like they're these guys that they all are on YouTube, I think, and they're TikTokers and they live together. So they all are feeding off each other's followings. Anthony Pompliano, the guy that I like a lot of people know his Pomp podcast, right? Like he's popping right now. Pomp is popping. He was doing an interview with the guy from the Sway House, and they were talking about how much money these influencers make. The kid's making like $70K a month off YouTube, $80K a month off YouTube. You really think he's working hard in the traditional sense of the word? And he's making $70,000 a month.
Right.
So it redefines like how to make money. You know what I mean?
That's what I was just going to say. Like working hard, because that person still is definitely working hard. It's just we're moving into like this time period where working hard looks so much different.
Right.
People are realizing that they don't just have to trade their time for a labor intensive job to get money.
They can trade money for money.
They can trade. Still takes time, but for less labor intensive. It's always like the work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, but like think about it. The reason they're making this money is because they put up YouTube videos that continue to generate like these videos. I mean, we're not making $70K a month, but our videos continue to generate ad revenue after I post them once.
Right.
So it's like you said, working a little smarter, not harder, but playing in the digital space. Like that's just knowing what's the future.
Yeah.
And being prepared to like live and operate in the 21st century. You know what I'm saying? But back to being cheap. Think about those kids that are making $150,000, $100,000 a month. The kid was saying, he's like, they're buying cars in cash. They're buying jewelry in cash. Like that's what a lot of people would do if they made that much money. But I think there's certain things, I guess for me, like I also just look at successful people and failures and I try to learn from them both, right? And you see how many people go broke because they end up spending more money than they earn. And at their peak earning years, like when they're making the most money, when they're at the top in their industry, they don't save enough. They flex too hard, they spend too much, and that's what ends up hurting them in the long run. So as we're coming up, because I think we're nowhere near the peak yet, I think that's my biggest thing is I can make sure as we make more money, we continue to save more money, not spend more money.
Absolutely. Like even as a kid growing up, I always remember hearing and watching shows of people that win the lottery and then end up declaring bankruptcy.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, that's funny. How do I never end up like that?
Right.
You know? And
I think it's like my barber, he says it sometimes. He's like, you got to get your cheap on. He says that like me and all of his other like rich clients. I don't think I'm a rich client. Okay, but he says he's like, you guys are all cheap. Like you guys know how to be cheap. And it's true.
So let's talk about that right now. Okay. Who is more cheap between the two of us? Before we go into this,
comment below who you think it is.
Who do you think is like innately more cheap?
If you comment me.
If you comment Austin, you're wrong.
Yeah, you're definitely wrong. Like, I think you're definitely wrong. We figured this out. That's why we wanted to do this video, because we were talking about it and I was like, yeah, I am pretty cheap. And then Rylee was like,
I was like, you're not cheap. You just used to be broke.
That's basically the truth.
So he had to be cheap.
But at the same time, I also am always spending most of my money back on the business.
Yeah.
Right? It's always been that way, throwing it back into the business. So while I'll be cheap in my head, like I think the reason I see it as me being cheap is because I was never buying myself nice clothes, never buying myself, like, we just got a nice car when we could plenty afford it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I waited for things and I didn't spend money along the way of growing the business. So I was cheap towards certain things, but I spent money. Like, I've dumped thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars into Facebook ads and things like that.
You were cheap because you had to be.
Yes.
But as we've discussed, innately, you like the nicer things.
Like, when we're looking at this trip to Mexico, I'm like, okay, we could spend,
Here's
whack the microphone.
Perfect example.
Okay.
Of how.
Are you going to steal this one? Because I had a good example. You got this?
This is even better.
All right.
With flights.
Okay.
You would rather pay extra, pay for your seat, know that your bag's included, know you got the extra leg room, know nobody else is around you. You don't really care if it's an extra whatever dollars, Me, if I see a cheap flight on Spirit in the back, I don't really care. It'll still get me there. We're both going from A to B.
But I'll be so miserable. I hate flying on Spirit.
Yeah.
I hate flying Spirit.
Do.
Yeah. And like, so I don't want to do that. So if we're going to spend $1,000 on flights, why would I not just spend $1,400 and be happy and comfortable?
Because that other $400 could go towards something else.
And this logic has definitely been known to bite me in the ass, because I'll be like, oh, we're going to spend $3,000 on this trip. Well, why don't we just spend $5,000? And then it's like,
no, it doesn't work that way.
I know. So it does. But at the same time, I think that's a part of my personality that's made me successful too. Because it's like, all in.
That's your mom coming out in you.
All in. I want all of it. I want the best. I got to be the best. I want all of it or nothing.
Yeah.
That's my mindset. I guess that's where that comes out of me. But you're definitely cheap too with, like, when we go out to dinner or when we order food, you're looking at the deals on Uber Eats. I'm like, why would I pick just from the things on Uber Eats that are offering deals? I want to look at all the restaurants. You're like, yeah, but these ones are on the discount.
I'm so cheap that, like, I remember, like, in high school and stuff, my ex, he was on a sports team. So, like, everybody, we'd all go out to eat afterwards. And of course, like, the parents would always try and pay for me regardless if I tried to pay for myself. So I would order the cheapest thing on the menu because I felt bad.
Yeah. I think I would do that. I do that often too.
You get a water and you order the cheapest thing.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah. I'm the same way.
A grilled cheese.
Because I don't want people taking care of me though. That to me isn't like so much more me being cheap. It's more like, I don't want you don't need to take care of me. You know what I mean? Like, when I go out to dinner with people and I know they're going to try to treat, then you always try to be nice on that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I don't remember the last person that took me out to dinner and treated me.
Me.
Yeah, other than you.
What you mean?
I just feel like now we've become the people that treat everybody everywhere. That's the truth. Come on.
Because we like to.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
Yeah.
And I won't be cheap on that either. Like, when our friends and family come around, like, I'm not cheap with that stuff, I feel like. I'm pretty generous that way.
Yeah.
Yeah? Could I be more generous? Of course.
Well, you always could be more generous,
right,
but I think you're relatively generous.
Well, because you don't want to give too much. You know what I'm saying? Because then people will continue to expect.
Yeah. So
you have to be careful with how much you give.
Yeah, and you've taught me, like, not to be cheap in some things.
Like what?
I don't know. I feel like everything in my life I was just cheap about. So, like,
I think about yourself. Like, self-care for Rye deserves nice things.
Yeah, like Rye, she loves to go thrift shopping. We're going to talk about me in third person right now. Or that's third person. Yeah. Like, thrift shopping versus spending, like, going out and spending money on clothes or something. Like, I'd rather thrift.
But I helped. But
why not?
What about the nice yoga clothes that you're getting now?
Yeah, you helped with that a little bit.
Right.
But
or what about your teeth?
Well, that wasn't really like a cheap or a non-cheap thing.
Okay. Yeah.
But
that was just expensive.
Yeah. Back to traders. So I feel like traders that are watching this, they're probably like, "What the hell? How is this relevant to me?" But as a trader, I feel like as you start seeing gains, profits, consistently winning, sometimes I feel like it can get easy to then get sucked in that rabbit hole of, well, now I need to spend because I see all these people on social media. They've got these flashy cars, these watches, these everything, these flames on my car, whatever it is that toots their horn. Mm. And in that case, I feel like you definitely have to have a good measure level of, like, all right, where do I need to be cheap and where is it okay to indulge a little bit?
Right.
So where do you think that you are actually cheap? Since we know I'm the cheap one of the two of us, where are you cheap?
I don't know exactly where I'm cheap, but I pay attention to my costs in everything that we do with the business. Like I try to monitor how much we're spending on ads and how much we're going to spend on this event and this product and this, like, you know what I mean? I try to monitor my costs so that I'm still making money. So I don't know if that, like, that's the first thing that comes to mind. But then, like, being cheap, like, I used to be worse, where, like, if we were planning an event, I would order cheaper t-shirts to save money. I definitely would, that would be, like, 19, 20-year-old Austin. But now I'm 26 almost. So now I'm more mature. And now I understand.
Cheap for you is like the last live event that we did where you didn't necessarily think like the name tags, like the extra marketing stuff was necessary. And I'm like, no, this is a time where you don't really want to be cheap because this is your business.
But this is why we work together, because I'm just like, yo, these people are coming for the value of the content and the trading stuff, not the fucking name tags. You know what I'm saying? but that's the truth.
But it adds to it.
I think I just kicked the cat. She was underneath me. Yeah. I know it does, and I've learned that from you, and it's made us better and made ASFX better. So I've learned that. I think I'm cheap too sometimes in, like, I don't know. I just feel like I'm better now at saving. Not so much that I'm cheap in anything. I'm just better at saving than I've ever been.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's not really like.
I mean, if I wasn't, we would maybe have to start like an OnlyFans and start making money that way or something like that. Like all these rappers that can't make any money during coronavirus. If you don't save, then how are you going to be able to handle times like this? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's true. I really think that. So you need the war chest.
So, okay, as a trader, let's try and bring this back to trading. Where do you feel like it's good to not be cheap?
In your education. Like, and your self-development.
Yeah, you definitely, actually, you were not cheap at all when it came to your education and books and learning.
Spent a lot of money on books.
Yeah, you did.
And courses and stuff.
Yes, you did.
Yeah. So, like, no, definitely can't be cheap on that because it's self-improvement and it's going to pay off. Even if it's a stupid course, then at least you learn what not to do. Like, it's still learning something. So it's like, even if the book doesn't teach you too much, it's still value because you learn what you don't like or whatever. There's still a lesson to pull. So that stuff is invaluable. Like, you can always learn from that. So can't be too cheap on that. And then with the trading stuff, I think you have to, like, prioritize. Like, everybody thinks you have to buy, like, screens and the best computer. You really don't. Like, you just don't.
Yeah.
MetaTrader 4 runs on, like, PC on, like, a basic $600 laptop, probably even cheaper than that. So you really don't need the most complicated thing to be able to make money trading.
I feel like that's, like, all the people, though, like, that goes down a whole different route of people that think they need all the newest best equipment to enhance their performance. No. And it's like, if you can't trade, your new fancy screens aren't going to help you.
No.
They're just not.
It's cool to be like I've learned that. I've known that. I've heard that for a long time. And I've lived through, like, I'd say 2, maybe 3 years of understanding that and, like, living through that understanding and making less trades, making more money and making better trading decisions overall. It's like, it's super powerful. It's like, why would you think, and I did think that, like, the computer would make a difference or how many charts I can look at once would make a difference. Like, no, that's just going to distract me from making really good trading decisions. It does. A lot of this stuff is distracting. Even, like, I was talking to Lindsay about, like, the 24-hour, I think it was Lindsay, or was it you? Like, the 24-hour Forex thing, how it's like they talk about Forex as if it's like a nonstop ATM money machine, but that's not the right way to trade Forex. You know what I'm saying? But it's marketed that way. So, like, it's distractions. There's distractions everywhere. You know?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are easily distracted. So it's important not to be, like, again, I would be cheap on the trading, like, screens and stuff like that. Like, you just don't need that stuff to trade well. The money should be focused on, first, like, of course, trading with paper money. And then when you actually are making money with the demo account, then all the money should be focused on your trading account.
Yeah.
Not your screens.
Right. Yeah. It's like back to the plane ticket. Like, you're still going to get there whether you have a fancy screen or not. Like, you need to learn how to do it and get there safely, you know?
Exactly. In that sense, that's where it's the same thing. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Where do you think your cheapness comes from? Back to, like, the original start of this conversation. Because I said it's my parents. Yeah.
It's always, I mean, everything. If you grew up with your parents.
Like, because you made a good point when we were talking about this. You were like, which one of your parents was more cheap?
Girl.
She just wants to be on the video.
So, hopefully that didn't cut out too long ago.
I don't think it did.
I don't think so either.
Okay, let's finish. So,
anyway.
Yeah, where does your cheapness come from?
My cheapness definitely comes from both parents, but more so my dad than my mom. So growing up, my dad, like, there's levels of homeless. There's like the living on the streets type of homeless, but then there's like the couch surfers or like the people that always might have roommates, you know, and that was my dad growing up. So he has moved probably like 40 times in his life, just bouncing around. Now has a house and is good and everything, but growing up, he lived with so many different people just to get by. So him being that way and me as a child, like seeing that, always taught me the difference between need versus want. Because with him, since he never really had a lot of space, he didn't have space to have wants. Like there was no room for extras. It was
just
always
survive.
Yeah, it was always what do I need to survive?
Right.
So that really taught me a lot about what we need versus what we want in life.
Right.
And when you're surviving, and just even in general about overall happiness. I feel like I could rant on that for a really long time, but definitely learned it from my dad and just witnessing him go through all of his troubles in life and seeing what's a need versus what's a want. And just always having that question in the back of my mind, you know, down to the point where like I'll still coupon to this day if I find great coupons, because it's like, why not? It's saving you money. Like, why wouldn't you coupon? So yeah, definitely get that from my dad. But I'm getting better at it. I know that I'm not in survival mode, so I don't need to act like that in every decision. But I think it's really good that I do have that perspective on everything, because I'm always able to like,
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah. To really weigh in and be like, is this a want or is this a need?
Right.
And more times than not, it's probably a want.
Yeah.
Because we need very little to survive.
Right. But that's always good to like, I think you don't understand it, like you said, without the perspective.
Yeah.
Very few people can understand the differences without living it. Like you can't just talk about it, is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like you couldn't, it's harder to, that's why you hear so many like rich kids that are like just given money from their parents, why they end up blowing it and going broke.
Right.
You know what I mean? They don't understand the true value of the dollar.
Yeah, I 100% understand. So I say mainly from my dad, but I did learn it from my parents were divorced, for those of you that don't know. My mom was the type of person where she definitely like always budgeted like down to the penny. So I did learn a lot from her about the value of a dollar, but with her, I saw her indulge more on her wants, not versus needs. So me being a kid and me seeing my dad being the type of person where he was always so focused on just the needs, not the wants. And then my mom, when she did
Even
have
better perspective.
When she did have a little bit extra, she would indulge for herself on her wants. Like, yes, for her kids, but not as often. No fault to any of my parents. Love them. They're different people now. But growing up, that's just how they were. That's just how things were. And people were always bringing it to my attention of like, oh, like your mom has her nails done, but your dad is like living with his mom, you know, things like that. So as a child, I was very good at seeing both sides of everything, because my parents were two completely opposite people, which is why they're divorced.
Right.
But it was really cool, and I love the experience that they gave me for that, because now as I'm older, I am able to tap a little bit more into my mom and be like, okay, well, what do I want for myself? And obviously, like we said, with the help of you kind of pushing me sometimes, but yeah.
Where do you think now, like your perspective of needs versus wants is in terms of your lifestyle now? Like, are you able to still really look at every single dollar that you spend and say, do I need this or do I want this?
It really depends on the situation. So like when we were at Universal, I walked into how many stores?
A lot.
And I looked at you and I was like,
a lot. I
don't need anything here. And I walked out. I didn't buy a single thing there.
Right.
Except for donuts.
Yeah.
But like anybody else, if they were in a store like that, they'd be like, oh, maybe I want this, or I want a souvenir shirt or a little mug. And for me, those are the types of things where I'm just like, I don't need any of that.
Right.
I don't need to spend.
But that's also just because you know that that's junk, and you hoard junk, and you don't need to hoard any more junk because you hoard.
What do I hoard?
Nostalgic stuff.
Nostalgic stuff is not junk. You just aren't nostalgic.
Okay. Maybe that's fair. Yeah. So that's interesting that's where your perspective comes from. I feel like like I said, most people, it comes from their parents. Do you think there was anybody else in your family, like Aunt Rain or Uncle Jeff, that influenced your perspective of being cheap? Do you have any other memories that you want to share where you think back and you're like, yo, why was so-and-so being so cheap? Do you have any memories of me where you're like, why is he being so cheap with that?
when I met you and you lived in a chicken coop of a house, but I understood why you were being cheap with that.
Well, I was trying to start the business.
Right.
Yeah.
So growing up.
Hey, and it was still like $1,000 a month to live there. And at that time, that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
I was just DJing.
And it was filled with mold.
Yeah. It wasn't a safe place to be.
Anyway.
We're better now.
So my pappy growing up, he's an entrepreneur. He always told me, don't work for your money, have your money work for you. Like he was always the one.
Rich dad, poor dad.
Yes. Drilling that into me. But it was interesting. 'Cause he's just like a very interesting person, but that's like,
we got to bring Pappy on the show.
Yeah, no, he's just he's out there, but he always told me that. And I remember that. And he would just always get so passionate about money.
Yeah.
And like when the government.
More than me.
You two would actually have a rare. I always said you guys should
keep
meet.
going. I don't want to distract you.
But he always made such an emphasis on like when the government is like dipping into your pockets too much. So I always then looked at that and was like, okay, he's somebody. He owns his own business. He's always talking about his money working for him, not him working for his money. But if you look at how this man lives, he's got a Maserati in the garage, but he lives in a 1-bedroom, small ass little house with always just wears plain white t-shirts every day. Like the way he lives is cheap, but then he goes and buys a really nice car. So it like doesn't make sense to me.
He has a different definition of his dollar.
Yeah, he's
to
just
the value of his dollar.
He's all over the place. But even looking at him, he taught me like, okay, he has money, but he's not flashy about it.
Right.
Like he still is always
Honestly,
to himself.
I think that's the biggest thing too that I've learned. Like over time, the people that really make a lot of money don't want to talk about it that much.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm very grateful that both of us are not flashy people.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know, I could talk all day about all the different people because I grew up clearly around a lot of people.
Do you have any other memories that like stick out as like, oh, that was a moment where so-and-so was being really cheap? Just because those memories that stick out now are going to be the ones that like left a deep impression on you.
Yeah. When you say that, like I come to mind.
Why?
When I went to senior week in high school with all my girlfriends, like I picked like the cheapest place ever because I didn't care. I was like, we're literally just sleeping there. Like I'm there to be on the beach. I don't care where I'm staying. Like we're not going to be in our room. We're going to be on the boardwalk. We're going to be on the beach. We'll go to everybody else's house,
right?
You know, and hang out there. Like we had weave in our bed.
Oh God.
It was terrible.
You really picked the shithole.
Oh yeah. It was a motel.
Oh wow.
I mean, not like a crackhead motel, but like
close.
Yeah.
Just because you just didn't want to spend the extra money.
Yeah, but it's weird.
See, that's where you and me are different.
In high school, I was the crazy person with 3 jobs just because I wanted to.
Right.
Like, I wanted to work in my free time because I was always the friend that if I wanted to do something, like the money was never an issue for me.
Right.
I just did it.
Right.
I made it work. You know, I worked for my money because I was taught that.
Right.
So even though I had money out of all my friends, I still was the one that was like, nah, like I'm not spending it on a nice place.
You are really cheap, man. Shit. You really are.
Yeah, like I remember going to Momo's house. Momo's my great grandma all the time. She's the one that taught me how to clip coupons. I used to love sitting there practicing my scissor skills, cutting along the dotted lines every Sunday in the coupon
that's
paper.
That's crazy. My dad still coupons. I don't know if I coupon like that. Like I don't.
Your dad coupons for food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but
like
that's
restaurants.
Yeah, that's the way he's always been.
Yeah, but like Austin's background, and you can touch on this. Like his mom is where he gets his non-cheapness from, and it's so funny because I love you both, but his mom is the type of person where she's just like, oh, that's a nice shiny object, I want it.
Right. It's interesting, and it's interesting that her and my dad lasted this long, considering he's the one that's always like, we'll see. That's my dad's favorite answer. We'll see. Should we buy that right now? We'll see. Like he thinks about everything. He can't just make decisions. Like he has to ponder it, and that's normally because he's being like cheap. Do I need that? Do I want that? That's what he's really saying. We'll see. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I think for me, I don't have any moments where I'm like, oh, so and so is being cheap. I have moments of my mom calling my dad cheap and say, why is he not doing this right now? Because my dad's going to get a second opinion. Like I don't remember what they were doing on the house once. Like they were getting something redone or whatever. And she was like, why won't he just do this one? Like why is he being so cheap? Blah blah blah. Well, I don't remember exactly what she said. It was a long time ago. But like my dad was just looking for a second opinion to see if he could get it cheaper somewhere else. And that's me now. Like I have that in me from my dad. But I remember my mom yelling at him, bitching at him about it. And it's funny because I'm like, I'm grateful Riley's not like that, because you're the exact opposite of that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I told her yesterday I had to ship out these things for the contest that we did on Instagram. And when I told her how much the UPS was trying to charge me, she was like, "You didn't pay for that, right?"
I was like, no. You said no, right? And walked out.
I was like, yeah. So you were proud of me for being cheap, because normally I would have been like, yeah, it's expensive, but whatever, I got to ship them. She's like, no, we'll find somebody else to ship them. We'll do it cheaper. I'm like, yeah, you're right. That's why I see I'm getting better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think of the story with your mom where she really wanted those teak wood floors. And then she was always bitching about how they get scratched and girls' heels dent them and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, Carol, you had to be expensive and get the nice floors. And then you want to complain about them that nobody can even step on them because they're going to.
That's my mom.
Not break, but dent.
My
scratch.
mom is very materialistic, but I love her. But she is.
I love your mom.
And my dad, as he's gotten older, has been less and less. My dad's like ready to sell everything and move to Mexico and just disappear into a beach. That's my dad.
It is very interesting. Your dad is the type of person where like he'll wear clothes that are too big because he won't want to go shop for himself. But like your mom wants to go shopping and he's like, okay, like I don't care.
Right.
Get whatever you want.
Right. My mom can go spend whatever money.
Right.
And he won't go buy himself a new outfit. That's my dad too.
But you kind of get cheapness in that way because
why? Because clothes
you
still work.
have the same shirts from high school.
But they still fit. I'm still fit.
Yeah.
It still works.
Yeah.
It still works. Some of them are faded and we've thrown those away and you get me new ones. But like, it's just a shirt.
Yeah.
It's always been hard for me with the clothes because I know people judge you based on your appearance, but I don't care to spend money on my appearance because it doesn't matter.
My mom always used to tell me, dress for where you want to be, not for where you are.
So I don't know, Tracy. I don't know if I agree with that. I'm sorry.
I went to school every day
like a hobo.
Literally looking like a bum because I wanted to be in bed. I wanted to be home. I didn't want to be at school.
Shows up in pajamas.
Dead ass. I was like, sometimes you're lucky if I would, sometimes actually, this is really bad, but I don't really care. I would sleep in what I was going to wear the night before so I could literally just wake up in the morning, brush my teeth, grab a granola bar, out the door I go.
That's second nature to jail.
I was not a typical girl.
That's
I was like
jail.
I can be up, ready, and out the door in 5 minutes. Let's go.
Yeah, that's not normal. I mean, I'm fast, but But you didn't like...
I didn't care. I didn't care what I looked like. I'm like, all you people, like, this is high school. Right. Y'all are going to judge me on what I look like because I want to be comfortable. I don't care.
Right.
Really don't.
That's how I feel,
like,
too.
Look where I'm at right now. Do I care?
Right.
No.
Right.
Didn't affect me.
Hey, I'm wearing collared shirts now, but they're dry fit, so they're comfortable. I just, the collar, I think...
And they don't get wrinkly.
Yeah, I think the collar makes it look a little bit more professional, I guess.
Yeah.
I like t-shirts. That's why I always wear t-shirts.
Now I just wear yoga clothes all the time. So I guess I enhanced my bumness from like baggy sweatpants looking like a little boy to actually
looking like a little boy.
Literally looking like a little boy. In 6th grade, I wore my hair up in a bun every single day because I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know how to do my own hair because I have so much of it. I wore it up to the point where teachers would compliment me or like say things when my hair was down because it was that big of a deal.
Your hair looks so pretty today.
Literally, it was that big of a deal because every day, sweatpants, sweatshirt, hair in a bun, no makeup, let's go. Deodorant, teeth. All right, I'm here. I'm ready to learn. What you got to tell me?
I'm ready to learn.
Like,
yeah, you're funny, right?
Take the test, pass next. Like, let's go.
You're funny. All right, so I think we wrap it up here because I got to go to boxing. But this is fun.
What time is it?
11:15.
Yeah.
We appreciate you sitting through, everybody. Sorry that the camera gave out. We're back to the original one camera angle for the second half of this video, but we'll go back to the split screen next video. I'll make sure that we're charged up and ready to go. That's my
Hopefully
bad.
you guys like this. This is literally just free.
What's our N word?
Conversation for us. The N word today is tell me what airline you would refuse to fly on. For Austin, it's Spirit.
Fuck Spirit.
Even if you're international and maybe you don't have airlines like Spirit.
Ryanair. Nobody likes Ryanair. It's cheap. Can't be that great. Never flown on it, but it can't be that good. Just saying.
Scratch
See?
that.
There you know. That's how you know who's cheap. Who's the one that comes in and says, oh, it's cheap. It can't be that good. Me.
Comment down below something that you're really cheap on. And you've been cutting yourself out of this frame the whole time.
They know I'm here. This is self-produced, bro.
Anyway, comment down below something that you're cheap about or maybe something that you want to be a little cheaper about.
Yeah. Stop buying Gucci belts. It don't do no good.
Yeah. My mom had Coach shoes when I was growing up. I'm like, why the hell you need that?
My mom did too. Like they were a thing.
Yeah. For what?
And now where are they? In the trash.
Literally.
You spent $400 on them and where are they? Secondhand.
Right.
Getting sold at a thrift store.
Literally.
You cheap ass. Crocs would have done it just fine.
I was just going to say my Crocs work just fine. I can even clean them in the dishwasher.
We'll leave it with the Crocs. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you being here. We'll see you in the next video.
Bye.